Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the HamCorp training manual. In this episode, we will craft the first few MV machines and set up some important processing lines like sulfuric acid, polyethylene, oxygen, and more. I've also decided to put off the addition of any new mods until the data update, so for now, I'll keep looking at existing lighting options. Hey guys, I've done something really bad, or maybe really good. Just watch this. It's terrifying. This can't be good, right? For the server and for the game? This can't be good. This thing is crazy. In between episodes, I crafted up some stuff. The electric ore factory and the rock filtrator. The electric ore factory is of course what you think it is, and the rock filtrator unlocks a few new things. Actually, a lot of new things. It has some overlap with sifting. So for example, emeralds, I can get it from sand sifting, but I can only get just straight up emeralds. With the rock filtrator, I can get emerald ore in the form of geodes. So this is kind of a better way for me to process gravel. It does, however, need distilled water, so that's something I need to start making. But these geodes just macerate into crushed ore, which is going to get processed as usual. After I set those two things up, I am going to lock in. I want a circuit assembler, and I want it now. There's a lot that goes into this though, and I'm going to have to set up quite a bit of infrastructure. This electric ore factory, by the way, this thing is so slow. It's legit like 16 seconds per ore. Per ore! That's insane. So, that means I need to build probably one for every single ore. Or something like that, I don't know. I'm gonna build them as I need them. But I have access to cobalt now from pentlandite, so that's nice. Oh, by the way, I have a distillery up here. This is how I'm making my distilled water for this. Because you actually can't wash crushed pentlandite with non-distilled water, which is interesting. I want to kind of go through the entire recipe map for the electric ore factory and see if there are repeats. For example, if I can do silver with distilled water and with non-distilled water, because if I can, then that's a little annoying, but if I can't, then I can organize these into rows based on the fluid that's used. So one row for normal water, one row for distilled water, one row for sodium persulfate or whatever, and so on. Also, I realized in the previous episode when I planned my whole base, I didn't plan an area for passive processes. And I think that's just going to go like over here on the left in the farm area. I don't think the farms are going to be that big, to be honest. So probably like wrapping around it would be cool. Anyway, I have cobalt, so I'm going to get the gas collector. And actually, I'm going to set up passive oxygen basically immediately with the gas collector. Also nitrogen, which means a bit more building. Cool. I'm just batch crafting a bunch of circuits right now, and I'm going through all of the different recipes and trying to optimize them because I just realized I'm actually using like the not good ways of processing stuff generally. So I'm kind of updating all the recipes, and I noticed the resistor one is way nicer in the assembling machine, but it does need glue. But glue I can get from sticky resin. More importantly, there's also fine annealed copper wire, which I can use instead of fine copper wire, and that doubles the output of the resistors. And I can make annealed copper now. I just need an arc furnace and oxygen. Oxygen is what I'm working towards, so I'm sure I can scrape by with some random oxygen source by centrifuging some random dust. Yeah, like limonite or something, I don't know. I'm sure I can get my hands on some oxygen somehow. But the arc furnace would be extra nice because not only can I make annealed copper, I can make glass, twice as much glass from sand, not that that matters because I have infinite sand. I can make a wrought iron here way quicker than in my kiln, so I can also retire my kiln and my entire steam create setup because I don't need it anymore. And yeah, just generally scrapping old machines, I can do that here in arc furnace. That would be pretty nice too, to get some partial refunds on some machines that are no longer being used, at least in the future. So cool, I'm gonna make my arc furnace as well. I'm also about to make my cutting machine. I just made the cobalt brass buzzsaw. Yeah, this is going to be a very machine-filled episode, I think. It's going to be great. To make an arc furnace, by the way, I need graphite dust. And graphite needs a rock filtrator, according to this quest. Why? Because the way to get graphite dust is from ore processing of crushed diamond. Or coal. So I don't actually need the rock filtrator, because I can get coal from the void extractor. I may as well do it the diamond way though. Why not? Just to see the rock filtrator in action. I showed this before, but there's a couple of different recipes for diamond geodes. I don't know why I would ever do the bottom recipe. I guess it's only if these 4 items are useless to me. Would they be? I don't know. Kind of weird. These are kind of weird recipes. I think I'm probably always going to do the top recipe. Better to have this stuff and void it than to not have it at all, I guess. It's a little slower, but eh. Ooh, what the hell? You can set circuits in input hatches? Cool. Oh my god, a minute each. Holy shit. I don't know where I thought I was gonna get yellow limonite from, but I can get silicon dioxide from flint. I mean, flint is silicon dioxide. And I can electrolyze this for oxygen. Pretty chill. Alright, here's a couple of optimizations. Resistors in an assembler, glass in the arc furnace, glass panes in the cutting machine, bolts in the cutting machine, vacuum tubes in an assembler, resin printed circuit boards in an assembler, and yeah, annealed copper from copper and oxygen. This is way cheaper. Let's set up an area for passive chemicals. Is this small? Yes. Is that on purpose? Yes. This is just going to be my starting area. Eventually, I'm going to have multi-blocks for everything, and I'm going to expand massively. Well, okay, this little chemical corridor, okay, this is too small. This is way too small. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. Okay, that's a bit better. It's still relatively cramped. If you imagine multi-blocks being placed here, it's actually not a lot of space. But this is mostly going to be single block thingies where I just put in inputs and I get outputs passively. So it'll do for now. I left this space open and I've left this building incomplete because I don't know how big I want to make it yet, and I don't know how I want to decorate it yet. I still need to add my anti-blocks mod and the lights because it is really dark. You know what? I'm going to do that right now. I've made some fixtures and dynamic edge lights from the Simply Lights mod, and these are pretty cool. I like how this looks. I kind of wish there wasn't a border here like this, but I think I could probably fix that with like a texture pack or something. Anyway, this looks pretty nice. I think this is a lot better than it was before. I could probably have some ceiling lights, kind of like this, but you know, from the ceiling. And that should make the room look a lot brighter. I decided I think I'm actually not going to add the anti-blocks mod, at least until the theta update, because I don't want to risk anything breaking when I update. I doubt that would happen, but just in case, I don't really want to add any mods that aren't in the pack already. At least not yet. Anyway, as you just saw, I made a bunch of diodes, which means I can make the good electronic circuits, the first MV circuits. To do this, I need phenolic printed circuit boards, which needs either sodium persulfate or iron 3 chloride, and I'm going to make both. There are some recipes that use iron 3 chloride that don't accept sodium persulfate, not specifically related to circuit boards, but just in general. So I am going to need iron 3 chloride eventually anyway. And sodium persulfate is used for ore processing, and you cannot use iron 3 chloride for that. So I need sodium persulfate too. So I'm just going to make both. And there's a pretty handy flowchart here already, so I don't need to make a flowchart. I'm going to follow what's given in the quest book. I'm sure there are better options for some of these chemicals, but I just want to see what's been laid out for me. So starting with sulfur dioxide. This needs oxygen. Ooh, actually I should do oxygen first, and I have already favorited everything. I kind of forgot that I did that. Anyway, oxygen is also laid out here pretty cleanly. Cobblestone into gravel, into flint dust, into silicon dioxide, into oxygen, and I get silicon dust too. So I need an igneous extruder, which is what I'm going to use for the cobblestone because it's a bit more compact. Crushing wheels because it's cool. It's not going to scale forever, but by the time this isn't fast enough, I will be able to do maceration much quicker, so it's fine. Sifting the gravel for flint, macerating the flint for flint dust, centrifuging the flint dust for silicon dioxide, and electrolyzing the silicon dioxide for silicon and oxygen. And I'm going to store the silicon dust in a super chest. 4 million items with probably overflow void capability. Just needs a bunch of circuits basically and steel. So cool. I'm gonna make my first passive chemical line. Ooh, wait, is it my first? Kind of. It's kind of my first. Not really. Anyway, it's gonna go over here. I think I did a pretty good job with this. This looks pretty nice. Let's see. I wonder if there are any notes I need to make here. The igneous extruder has been upgraded with an LV upgrade kit, so it makes 6 cobblestone per cycle, which is pretty nice. It also doesn't work with waterlogged stuff on the left, so it had to be an actual block of water. I'm putting 64 cobble at a time into the crushing wheels. Crushing wheels are powered by a motor from Create New Age. This converts RF into rotation, and that goes into these rotation speed controllers, which rotate the actual crushing wheels. Everything from there is pretty straightforward GregTech stuff. Goes into a sifter, goes into a macerator, goes into a centrifuge, goes into the electrolyzer. One thing that's nice about this version of GregTech is you can output the fluid and the item onto different faces of the multi, or of the machine. So here I have the items being pushed straight into the super chest. The super chest is locked and it has item voiding enabled. So once this thing is full, it's going to void any excess silicon that it gets, which I'm fine with. And this thing is filling up with oxygen. In fact, it's already full. I want to make a super tank and store the oxygen in there, but that needs polyethylene. And in fact, getting my hands on some polyethylene would be pretty nice. There are many different ways to get ethylene, so I do need to think about this a little bit more. But one simple way is to combine sulfuric acid, which I need to make, with ethanol. And that makes ethylene and diluted sulfuric acid. And then the ethylene I just combine with oxygen to get polyethylene. But we'll come to that pretty soon, I think. First, I want to automate sodium persulfate and iron 3 chloride. To start off, here is something intermediate. Here's sulfuric acid. For now, I'm going to manually feed in the sulfur, and I'm going to manually feed in the oxygen. That's going to make sulfur dioxide, which makes sulfur trioxide, which makes sulfuric acid. Cool. One thing to note though, this empty steel cell cannot handle acids, which means I'm not going to be able to pick up the sulfuric acid with this empty steel cell. So I don't know how I'm supposed to transport this around, but... So that completes up to here. Next, I need to make hydrochloric acid and sodium bisulfate, and I can actually do both those things in one step if I use salt. And salt I can get from centrifuging salt water, and salt water I can get from centrifuging seawater. This also gets me more saltpeter and rock salt. Seawater, finally, is made in a barrel. Very simple. Or even in a multi-block barrel, which is probably what I'm going to do. It's just water and some sand, and the sand isn't even consumed. Once I have salt automated, in addition with the sulfuric acid, I can make my persulfate and my iron 3 chloride. I decided to set up the seawater and saltwater thing over here in my resource generation area because it generates two types of ores, so it kind of makes sense to me. This does mean, for now, I'm going to have to be bucketing or like somehow transporting the seawater from here to over there, but I can live with it for now. Once I have AE2, everything is going to be super simple. And cool, this has been set up. I've left a bunch of space for super tanks and stuff. And also, the steel drums can't handle acids either, so I don't know how I'm supposed to store an acid. Hopefully the super tanks can. Anyway, salt plus sulfuric. I have the fluid output going here, which is hydrochloric acid. This makes iron 3 chloride. And I have the item output going here, which is the sodium bisulfate, making sodium persulfate. And both of these processes make hydrogen as a byproduct. And I'm going to store that over here in a super tank with void overflow. As for the main storage for these two things, they're going to be in tanks over here and over here. That's my plan. Too bad I don't have polyethylene. And now I can make my phenolic circuit boards and my first MV circuits and my LV circuit assembler, and then I can make all kinds of goodies. Probably a bunch of MV machines. I suppose it's kind of time to enter MV properly now. I really should do the assembler first for the jet boots, huh? Yeah, I probably will. As soon as I have a circuit assembler, of course. To make these phenolic circuit boards, by the way, I can either use wood pulp or wood chips, and I will tell you right now, wood chips are much better. They're so much easier to get. Look at this ratio for logs to wood chips. It's literally 31.5 wood chips per log. That is so many circuit boards. And I'm going to make these so much faster, because the alternative of wood pulp, macerating planks, is 1-to-1, so each wood log is 4 wood pulp, and it's going to take almost 20 seconds for that. So I'm going to make myself another set of crushing wheels, and this is just for random on-demand crafting, and that's going to go right here. Also, look at how fast this thing is now. Yeah. 450 seconds for a single silicon bull. I think that's the same in GTNH, actually. I ain't mad. But cutting these wafers needs an MV cutter, which in turn needs vanadium steel, which means I need vanadium magnetite, which means I need either an advanced centrifuge or electrolyzer. So, whatever. I'm just going to do the assembler, get my jet boots, and then we'll deal with more efficient circuits. Well, that was pretty easy. Cool. Now let me get my hands on these boots. Oh, yes. Nice. How do these things work? Well, clearly I need to charge them. And I can do that in a machine, so that's pretty nice. And boom, I have basically creative flight. That's pretty crazy. I need to charge this up some more. Anyway, as for using this advanced assembler, I could just plug it into this LV line, and it should be fine. I'm gonna have to micromanage turning it on and off, of course, but the smarter thing to do would be to just add a transformer and then put it at the end of that. And of course I need to increase the amperage here of LV from 1 amp to 4 amps, but that's fine. I also need to make my actual autocrafting building and start putting things in there instead of this random spot in the quad. Like, it's kind of silly that this stuff is still here. To continue, I am going to work on the advanced cutter now, which means I need to make the better processing machines. I think I'm going to make both of them. Advanced electrolyzer and advanced centrifuge. Though actually, I kind of want to do more processing line stuff. I was having fun with that. So I'm going to automate glue and liquid rubber and just make it passive completely. And I'm also going to do polyethylene, which is over here. And I want to do it with this whole like path. So I'm going to try and start with biochaff. Though to be honest, I don't really need to. It's kind of just supplemental. The biochaff gets turned into more ethanol. But I'm still going to be starting with this fermenting recipe. So this could be kind of interesting. Plus, making sure my fundamentals are strong is only going to help me in the future. Yeah, I'm going to have a lot of fun in this pack. I love processing lines. So this right here is rubber from nothing. Well, from sulfur. All the way over here, I make witch water, which makes Shiitake spores, which I cook on a depot with an encased fan into slime balls, which I then cook into sticky resin, which gets centrifuged into glue and raw rubber pulp and plant balls. The way I'm routing this is I'm sending the outputs of the centrifuge into the storage controller, and this storage controller is linked to these two drawers, so it goes into the right spot, and then this basic chem reactor pulls the raw rubber from below. It also pulls sulfur from above, and it makes liquid rubber, which is going to be stored in a tank right here as soon as I get to polyethylene, which I think I'm going to do now. I do need to expand this. Well, maybe I can fit it in here. I doubt it. I need to expand this. And here's polyethylene. It's a little more scuffed than the other setups because I pull from a potato drawer, for which I've made a new farm. These potatoes go into the fermenting casket, where it's turned into ethanol and biochaff. The biochaff goes into the brewery, and the ethanol goes into this chem reactor. The biochaff is then combined with water to make biomass, and then the biomass is distilled in an MV distillery into ethanol again, which also goes into this chem reactor. Now, this chem reactor needs to be fed sulfuric acid, which I'm currently doing by hand, and it makes ethylene and diluted sulfuric acid. The ethylene is pulled into this chem reactor, not pushed. I guess it doesn't matter, but the way I've done it is with a pump pulling, and in the pump I've placed a fluid filter set to ethylene, so it can only pull the ethylene, and the diluted sulfuric acid is never going to clog this chem reactor. I don't know what to do with this diluted sulfuric acid. I'm probably just going to void it, probably with like a trash can underneath or something like that. And for supplying sulfuric acid, I don't know. I'll just do it by hand. And then this whole thing can be refactored once I have AE2. Anyway, finally, this chem reactor makes actual polyethylene. Polyethylene does a lot for me. One, it makes machine hulls cheaper. I don't need wrought iron anymore because there's an assembler recipe that uses polyethylene instead. It also saves me one extra plate of the tier material, which is nice. It's also used in a ton of other parts that are coming up really soon. Also diodes, cheaper diodes. That's nice, instead of using molten glass. Not that glass is expensive, but you get twice as many diodes from the other stuff if you switch from liquid glass to liquid polyethylene. Anyway, I think that's enough of processing line stuff for now, because I think I have sort of everything I need for the immediate future. So I will get back to making some MV machines. I've already made two, as you can see, a distillery and a chem reactor. And of course the assembler that's sitting in my backpack. I also need to make one or more advanced laser engravers and the centrifuge and electrolyzer, which I think I mentioned before. After which I can make the cutting machine and then the MV energy hatch. And probably some other stuff that I'm going to need along the way. Oh hey, I totally forgot. The whole reason I wanted polyethylene today is so that I could start making super tanks. So you know what, let's do that first. I've also batch crafted a whole bunch of resistors and vacuum tubes, so making more circuits should be super chill. Except I need an MV extruder to make the large polyethylene fluid pipes that I need. So I guess I'm making some MV components after all. Hey, did I show you guys these lamps? They're called illuminant columns, and they're really cool. I think I'm overusing them just a little bit over here, but generally around the base, I think I like it. It looks pretty cool. The top block emits light too, so it looks pretty nice at night. But I'm definitely using way too many of them too close. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Still experimental. I don't know what exactly I want to do with these, but there's something. Anyway, I'm going to put all of these new machines in this auto crafting area, and I'm also going to move my old machines. I'm going to start cleaning up around the base instead of just having this lawn base slop all over the place. Like this void extractor is going to be moved over here because it's resource generation. So it should be over here anyway. The stone barrel, I don't even remember what it's for. I think it's for like lava or something. I should probably automate that over here. This cobble works. I can replace with an igneous extruder and just put it up here instead. There's a lot of cleaning up I can do. Oh, and now that I have the jet boots, I can finish the tower. Ooh, maybe next time. Here's 4 extruders, because why not? I'm going to do small gears, I'm going to do pipes, I'm going to do probably regular gears, and I think rotors. I think those are my first 4. Eventually, I'm probably going to have an extruder for, like, everything, pretty much. Oh, rings, too. Rings is a good one. Ah, super tanks, my beloved. Everything's in here now, and everything is piling up. Things are going to be processing for a long time, because these tanks have enormous capacity. 4,000 buckets. So, yeah, this is going to take a while. Sick. Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp Training Manual. In the next episode, we will further progress our circuit fabrication infrastructure, build a lot more buildings, and potentially even craft some basic AE2 components. Cleanup and optimization around the base will happen in parallel. Employee offices will be built soon, and an RTO mandate for all employees will be enacted. You will be required to work in them 5 days a week, unless you're an executive, of course, and you can work from home. See you next time.